By the way, this is the first time we're having a presentation here on Share Magazine. I'm very pleased to be able to introduce AEX Gold to you, which just recently got listed on the London market in the end of July, where we raised 42.5 million in sterling in capital to be able to develop our properties in Greenland. My name is Eldur Olafsson. I'm the founder, the CEO of the company, and the CEO of the company. We have been working and operating in Greenland for the past 7 years, acquiring asset, building up quite countercyclically asset base in Greenland. We have a team of very smart people on our board and on in-house team. Graham Stewart, which is our chairman, and George Fowley, which is our CFO, Martin Menard, COO, John Plant, corporate secretary, and the rest of the team is here. AEX Gold, what we intend to do here in Greenland is that we are building up a full cycle gold company. What that means is that we've been building up asset base of 3,356 square kilometers in southern Greenland, in the gold belt here in southern Greenland, and then also in the Tartu gold belt. Within those licenses, this is all high-grade discoveries on surface. In the middle of all this gold license, gold belt, I should say, is the past producing mine of Nalunaq. It's produced from 2004 up all the way up to 2014, about 50 to 70,000 ounces a year. And it is one of the highest grade gold mine in the world. We took over this asset together with all of these other assets in end of 2014, beginning of 2015. We now have a modest resource of 250,000 ounces at 18.5 grams per ton. So again, one of the highest grade resources that you can find. The asset itself is fully permitted. It has more than hundreds of millions of dollars already invested in harbor, roads, 20 kilometers of mine working, etc., etc. And what is more interesting is that we have proven extension of the deposit, which I will show you in a minute in a 3D model that I have here to show you. That is more than 2 million ounces. Furthermore, there are also evidence of more ounces within that mountain, as well as in the wider area. We believe we can build multiple mines like this over this whole region here. And I'm going to be showing that to you, how that is being done. All of these kind of a high grade resources. The company itself, it's a very simple company. It doesn't have any debt. We raised in total now 25 million Canadian dollars before we got listed in London. Before that, we got listed in 2017 in Canada. We raised this 42.5 million sterling. So currently we have on our bank account in Canadian dollars more than 70 million Canadian dollars on our bank account. We don't have any warrants. The board and the management, me, myself, we participated in every single round since we founded this company. Even in this latest round, we took up to $1 million in the current raise. We have large part of our shareholder register, our institution now coming in London. Stifel managed our capital raise, and they also only institution, very sticky and long-term shareholders that we're getting in there. We then have Vækstfonden, or the Danish Growth Fund, Greenland Venture Fund, and the largest pension fund of Greenland. They own collectively 10.2%. So it's a high quality share register, the long-term thinking. And what we have done here is that we raise enough capital to cover all of our exploration and start production next year. Fully funded with equity, nothing else. So Greenland, to give you a little bit of understanding of Greenland and why that is interesting. Well, it's first and foremost an OECD jurisdiction. It's one of these few big frontiers that are left in the world, but they're still in the OECD. It got its mining code in place in 2009. It's a home ruling government under the Danish rule. So they get, I think it's about $500 million a year in a block grant from Denmark. They put into the country, build up infrastructure, housing, harbors, hydropower plants, everything you need to help the communities and businesses in country. What we're seeing now in Greenland is that since they opened up in 2009, a lot of capital was spent to explore for resources. And the reason why is because all of these resources, they come to surface. The glacier there that you see here on the picture cuts the land from the top of the mountain all the way down to the sea level and gives you exposure to this geology. This is the oldest rocks you can find in the world. They're quite diversified rocks that you can also find. So commodities like zinc, titanium, iron ore, rare earth, gold, obviously platinum, palladium, molybdenum, and so on, have all been discovered. We're seeing the second wave of investment. Obviously, the President Trump, he was quite interested in acquiring the whole country, and there is a reason for that. You have big Chinese SOEs, Anglo-American, Rio Tinto is sniffing around, and more companies are taking up licenses there. I'm an Icelandic person, and I'm a geologist as well. Don't hold it against me. But we are operating in the most southern part of Greenland, which is ice-free all year round, and that's important. It has a very, very good infrastructure. That means airports, towns, electrical grid, 4G signal everywhere around, and so on and so on. So it's a very good place to operate in. And to put this into perspective, this would be the same latitude as the most northern part of Britain or Oslo and so on. So this is very much unlike what you find here up in Arctic Canada. More importantly, you're looking at a geological strike that is similar to what you find here in the Abitibi gold belt in Canada, where you have more than 21 gold mines in production. They've been mining the Abitibi gold belt since 1900 or even earlier, 180 million ounces mined there so far. And then the gold line goes through here and up through Sweden and Finland, where you see a lot of capital entering this country. The reason why you don't have a major already in Greenland is that we bought up every single license there that was of interest or a discovery, to be able to build up a portfolio of different assets. I'm going to show you very quickly the view of the mine itself. And so again, I'm going to take you now, due to COVID, I can't offer you a flight to Greenland and take you all on site. So I'm going to try to bring the site to you. So when we go into South Greenland, this is the most southern tip of Greenland. These fjords are ice-free all year round. We land here in the airport of Narsarsuaq. You can take a boat ride 2 sides through this fjord system and to the side of the mine that is here. On the way, you pass the town of Narsarsuaq. This is a town of Kogartok, town of Nanortalik, and then some settlements that are usually quite close to the sea, because a lot of the industry there is fisheries and hunting and so on. So most of the land inland is not habited, but we are in close proximity. To put this into perspective, when you're on a boat there, you can be on a 4G signal almost the whole way on your phone, and that's on the site as well, which is quite important when you're operating and building mines where you don't have necessarily a lot of people. These towns are about 1,500 to 3,500 people town that are there. Helicopter services and all sorts of services at site. I'm going to start by showing you our mine. But what I should say to you in the beginning is that all of this gold belt, which is 20-30 kilometers wide and 200 kilometers long, we hold licenses over the discoveries. And again, the geology is so straightforward. There's no soil, there's no vegetation, there is nothing that hinders our site to discover this deposit. The glacier has basically scrubbed the whole land. And the reason why we know about all of the gold here in the system is that most of these springs here have been panned, and they're all quite full with gold, which is quite interesting, because having glacier cut, throwing all of these rocks away, usually you would have less of that kind of alluvial gold than you would have in some places else in the world, places like Africa and other region where it had time to build up. So I'm now going to take you to the asset, and I'm kind of giving you a setting here, which is in Nalnag. So here we have a harbor, excuse me, that took in a 40,000 ton ship, a very big harbor that is here. We have about 9 kilometer road that goes on 2 bridges that goes all the way to the asset, which is here. In the first 5 years when this mine was in production, the rock was broken down in the mine. It was then trucked down here to the harbor. It was shipped out first to Spain and later on to Newfoundland for full processing. So no processing was done inside. Even so, this was a company was called Crew Gold that did that. Even so, they were doing that on a $530 all-in sustaining cost due to the enormously high grade that is there. Then a company called Angel Mining acquired the asset of Crew Gold, and they built a processing plant on site. And the reason behind that is that you want to, this is a lot of the gold that is free gold. So anytime you move the gold, you face a huge amount of dilution. There's always a little bit of gold that gets diluted on the way, all the way to the plant. However, angel mining had other aspiration in Greenland and other focus, and they were not very well capitalized. And then they ended up in a particular issue running the mine, and therefore there came the opportunity to us. So when we took over the mine through a restructuring, we acquired the mine, and we wanted to understand what is left there. How much can we mine there? What's the state of the infrastructure? And what's the potential just within that mine working? Because again, this is all permitted and you have all of this infrastructure in place. So what we essentially did is that I'm going to press on this mountain here and show you from a 3D view what we have done. Give me a second. So we basically started analyzing all of the data, every single drill core, put it into perspective, going through all of the feasibility study, the actual data, and we invested mainly in infrastructure and in 3D modeling. So now here you can see the mountain, which I'm going to show you here, and the deposit. It's the best way to describe it. It's like a slice of cheese that goes through the whole mountain, and I'm going to show you it here by taking off the topography. So I'm going to put in the main vein, and I'm also going to put in the resource itself and the drill. So right away here, the deposit comes on surface here, and this is the same for all of our deposits. It's on surface. We know it's there. It just hasn't been quantified. You're not looking deep down. You're not saying the seismic looks great or anything like that. It's on surface. That's the beauty, and that's why it's relatively little risk to explore it and again also to develop it, especially in an area like this one. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to take off the topography to be able to show you how the deposit looks like. So it's 1 meter thick deposit. It's a white quartz vein, and there's black rock above it and below it. And it goes through like this throughout the whole mountain, okay? And how this is mined is that I'm going to show you what was mined in it before. It was mined about 380,000 ounces. It's done through a long hole stoping method, and how that looks like is that you do these tunnels here where you follow the vein, so basically following the vein here. And all of these tunnels, this is high up in the mountain. The mine goes from 200 meters above sea level all the way to 700 meters above sea level. And all of this mine is in a stellar condition, so we can start tomorrow to start that mining there. And there's a long hole stoping method that is ran here, and that's all of the mine working. What you also have is this a ramp system and ore hauling system that is all in a very good condition, which we can utilize and develop. So when we took over the asset initially, we needed to understand what the resources was left. So we went into all of these mine workings, and we've done a 3D surveys and driven up and down all of this mine. And we noticed that in these tunnels, they end in ore, they stop in ore, they end in ore. And they also do that over here and here. However, that's not enough. We wanted to understand the scalability of this. How far does it go? And it's difficult to drill it from here due to this, how steep the mountain is. So what we did is that we got some very brave SAS soldiers from the Australian and the UK Army to exhale down here this face and sample the vein all the way from where they stopped and all the way around here. And then furthermore, in the past 3 years, we've been drilling approximately 10,000 meters down here in the valley floor to show how much the vein extends down dip. And this vein is now currently open at down dip. To put this into perspective, we have 250,000 ounces in a resource. In the past, 50 to 70,000 ounces was produced. So this would be, 5-year mine life. This is not much. However, it's high grade, so the all-in sustaining cost in the past was only around $530 per ounce due to the high grade nature of this. And what that means is that by sampling all the way around, getting fantastic sample, and we're literally, the structure is straight as an arrow. So it's what you want to say with these deposits, you drill for structure and then you drift for grade. So we now know that this deposit continues all the way through here and the drilling. And this area here has an exploration target, mind you, of more than 2 million ounces. What we also know is that within the mountain there are evidence of more of these veins, and our team is actually on site right now exploring for that. Excuse me. And we are exploring for other veins that could be in this mountain as well, both below the main vein and above the main vein. So this is obviously all very exciting. And what we will be doing in our development with the funding that we have in place, and mind you, there's no need to go to the market or anything like that, is that we are currently drilling down here in the South Block, both infill drilling to plan our initial production, and we're also doing some sampling on the surface and sampling all the way over into this region here, into this mountain here, which is on the opposite side of the mountain. And that could, so you can see that this can expand in all directions. And we will be developing early next year, if I take the topograph, down here into this area here, approximately 1,000 kilometers, 1,000 meters, I want to say 1 kilometer, and 1,000 meters up here. And when we do that, we actually take out about 50,000 tons of ore, which is in addition to about 20 to 30,000 tons of ore that is on site. And our initial yearly production is about 100,000 tons a year. So what you can see here is that we will have approximately 1 year's worth of production stockpiled before we start. At the same time, last time the drill for structure and drift for grade, last time this was done was before when Crew Gold did this in 2000 to 2003. The resources expanded significantly because you're obviously following the deposit, and you can then be drilling up and down and following the whole thing. So you're both starting production and you're increasing the resources. And this is the same for so many deposits, Weston, Macassa, Fosterville. All of these deposits have that capability. They're high grade, and you increase the resources as you go. So our development capital, which is important to think of, so how are we spending that? Well, we are spending it into something that is quite important for companies in our day and age to spend on. So new technology. So we're going to build a full new processing plant right here outside of the mine. This is going to be a modular plant, pre-tested and fabricated in Canada or in Europe, and then taken to site. And the RFPs are just going out for that, and we should have a result to the market on that. We then are going to do a dry stacking or stacking our ore underground. We can do both things here. And we are going to be looking into both solar and wind, and later in the mine life, we're going to be looking at harnessing the river here for hydroelectric. That gives us energy obviously dependency, and it becomes a green ethical gold mine, which is our key element here for this gold production. The same thing applies with the camp. That's going to be built down here next to the sea. So the camp is going to be more than a 5-star hotel. So it's going to be a good working condition. And by the way, the camp and the processing plant, it's all going to be set up so we can scale our operation up as we explore and develop into more and more resources. And more importantly, the camp will serve as an operating base to unlock the whole gold belt in Greenland. What that means is that Greenland can be quite expensive to explore in, due to the fact, not because it's necessarily anything expensive about it, but it's just because it costs to go there. You need to get your helicopter, you need to get your oil, you need to get your food and everything. So having an operating base here will allow ourselves to unlock this whole potential, and therefore we have our camp larger. And there again, we're looking at heat pumps, we're looking at solar energy and so on. So I come from the renewable business before, and that was my initial company that I set up and sold. I want to show you only other asset, because I could spend 4 hours here showing you these high-grade deposits in Greenland. They're so exciting. But I'll show you only one other asset that has been drilled in South Greenland called Vagar. It's next door to Nalunaq. It's just 20 kilometers distance away. It's just about here. And Vagar is something we are exploring right now. So we're drilling in Nalunaq, we are sampling here, and we're sampling all over our license portfolio to start generating a multiple of these deposits. And again, these are already discoveries that we're trying to quantify. And we can quantify them on surface because we can do channel samples, we can follow these veins on surface. And let me show you how. So this Vagar deposit was, again, drilled in 2013 and 14. There's a big structural shear zone where you have quartz vein and granodiorite coming through the whole system. This is very much similar to what you find in the Barcel project in Sweden, like Nico is operating. So I'm going to press on this area here, and this is something that we are currently sampling. So Vagar basically was discovered by two geologists that were following these big structural geozones and we structural zones or structural corridors in South Greenland. And what's interesting there is that they flew over. They knew that there was a lot of gold in the system, but they basically, with just some luck, due to the fact that this land has been cut here with glacier, they managed to see from the helicopter, mind you. So if this was land in Sweden or Canada or probably in Africa as well, this would all be walked, but it hasn't been walked. But they managed to see this quartz vein 2 coming to surface. So they landed on this tip here. They sampled this vein here, and they got 2,533 grams per ton out of this sample. They managed to raise a bit of capital in 2013 and 14 to do a bit of drilling, which are only 5 or 6 holes, not a perfect angle, but they discovered 3 veins. And vein number 2 is doing 70 grams per ton over 30 meters. We often talk about in Greenland this high-grade disease because you get so many high-grade resources that you know, especially the academics, they get so focused on it. But for us, we started looking at the wider picture. What's happening in the granite? Because that usually should contain something, right? So in the granite diorite here, in Fenmore and in Öresund and another region, and we just started exploring this, by the way, we're getting 14 grams per ton, 12 grams per ton in zones that are 5 or 6 meters thick, and you know, then they go under scree here. So this year we're going to be sampling a lot more of this, trying to get a much better picture of all of this region here. So you can see that right here we have our next deposit that we can start developing from surface here. There is, you know, we can go down this valley here to the sea. You know, we can do development into this year, take a bulk sample out, even truck that to Manalac for processing, and build our next mine, right? What is, I think, is more interesting is that if you go a little bit out, you can see that this structural zone goes through this whole area, right? So we're getting outcrops here, 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 all of these high-grade outcrops, and we will be sampling this. So possibly what you're looking at here is something much, much, much larger. And that's usually the case in Greenland, is that you find something larger. To put this into perspective, if this ridge that is only 2 kilometers long, half a kilometer wide, and probably 500 meters tall or high, if this was mineralized on 4 grams per ton, I mean, you heard 3 grams per ton here earlier, you would be looking at multiple million ounces in a high open pit scenario. So this is the excitement of Greenland, and this is just one of our 50 other deposits that we have there, and we will be exploring. And that's what gets us extremely excited. So the purpose here for us is that we're in a region where you have the big rare earth deposits here and here. You have blue gem mining, so it's a very busy region. We want to be able to build an operating base that can generate good cash flow to deliver dividend to our shareholders, and also to be able to support the growth of the company. And that's why we funded everything with equity, no debt, no royalties, nothing that is strange in the capital structure to underpin the growth in the whole region. So here you can see some of the road and the vein, the deposit underground, and this is the mining method. This is the gold. This is the exciting part. So a lot of the gold is high grade. It's free gold. It's not a deposit that fit necessarily really well within the 43-101 standards. However, saying that, this is how probably majority of all gold in the past 100 years has been mined. Witstranden Basin, a BDP gold belt, high grade gold veins that actually you're not moving dirt. You're actually generating good cash flow. That's the key thing. Mining for ounces, not for tonnage. So yeah, so I can wrap it up like this. There are a lot of brilliant, good gold mining companies out there. We have our opportunity is high grade, is London listed, is in an OECD jurisdiction, is a pure play high grade company, and I don't see anyone else like that with a large shareholding register in London, and therefore we are quite unique to the market, and we can represent a very good growth prospect for the market with a fully funded company that supports both the exploration and the full development of the mine. So that's the quick wrap up on that. Sorry about running over time here.
I am going to ask just a couple of quick questions, because these are the main themes that have come out from all the questions that have come in. And the first is about environmental impacts and environmental permitting. Can you confirm you're fully permitted, or the challenges around environmental permissioning in the region there?
Yes, so we are updating our EIA and SIA, or environmental impact assessment, but that's just going to be based on the current EIA and SIA anyway, and there is an exploitation license, so we are fully permitted to exploit the asset. On the ESG matter, we take the highest score on all of these things, so we are in an area where you have very low or little to any vegetation or wildlife, and we are actually going to work on improving that. We are generating our energy, or focus on generating our energy with renewable resources. From the social point of view, there we are employing a lot of people on a good salary. We're paying royalties and good taxes to the government there. So this is all in a really good standard for us. And on the governance side, we obviously have been listed and transparent, and as you heard about the capital structure, so all of those levels are in a very good shape. So we claim, kind of to end this, that we are going to be green, ethical gold miners, right? And we need to live up to that, and that's certainly what we're going to do, because we want to be able to attract investment from anyone out there, and that's the key element, and that's what you can do actually in Greenland.
And the other main theme was about, I guess, about resources, as in human resources, and the staff to develop and then operate. And would you envisage them being locals? They come in from Canada or from Europe? How does that work?
Yeah, previously the local employment came from Scandinavia, or let's say call it Europe, Scandinavia, and Canada, and then local. The operation there, we always try to keep as many locals as possible, because that's obviously very good from a social point of view, but it's also the best way for us to operate. So these three markets would fulfill our needs, and have been fulfilling our needs for the past 7 years. So we're very used to operating here. We're always come under budget, on time, and delivered our goals so far.